I've noticed that cannibal media has taken the world by storm, and readers are also eating it up. So cannibalism in media is nothing new, from movies like Silence of the Lambs, to true crime documentaries about Jeffrey Dahmer, to more recent films and TV like Yellow Jackets, Fresh, and Bones and All. But what I've noticed in the literary space right now are a lot of books focusing on cannibalism and female main characters. There are a couple of different thematic elements that run through the 5 books that I'm going to talk to you about in this video, and also happen to be the kind of overarching themes that I've seen in all of the recent Cannibal Girl books. So the first and most obvious theme is hunger, usually a deep and insatiable hunger, and this takes form in many different ways. Sometimes the insatiable want for more and better. Sometimes it's a compulsion that the woman cannot understand. Sometimes it's feminine rage, and sometimes it takes shape as lust. Rage comes up a lot in weird women books, but especially in cannibal women books. And rage is used as a way to subvert expectations of what women should be, with society expecting and demanding a woman to be meek. So however the hunger takes shape, in a lot of these cannibal horror books, femininity is used to subvert expectations. And it's a tool through which the women and girls in the books that I'm going to talk to you about today rebel against their roles as mothers and daughters. There are also themes of ageism and girlhood within these books. And these themes of feminine rage and subverting expectations of womanhood appear throughout all of the cannibal fiction that I have come into contact with. So if you're hungry for some weird Cannibal Girl horror, here's my list of the top 5 Cannibal Girl books that I would recommend. Okay, let's start here with the first Cannibal Girl book that I ever read, and that is A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. So this one follows food writer Dorothy, and Dorothy is middle-aged and has had many lovers and partners throughout her life. She's a master of the culinary arts and prose alike. And she loves sex just as much as she loves food. So though she's not able to find a long-term partner, she makes the best of her single life by meeting men, sleeping with them, and then murdering them to consume parts of their body. Out of all the characters I'm going to talk about today, she reminds me the most of a Hannibal Lecter type. She's intelligent, she's educated, she's well-spoken, and her cannibalism is almost a form of art to her. It is how she obtains the meat for these intricate meals that she prepares, and she goes into each kill knowing what part of the body she wants to take and consume. So this book is both a critique of how gender is defined as well as an exploration of ageism and how older women are devalued and or forgotten. And in each book I'm going to talk about, cannibalism is sort of a metaphor for something else. So in this one, the cannibalism is all about the embodiment of female power and rage. Even though she's doing the most unhinged things possible, you're kind of sitting there going, you go girl, because you start to understand where she's coming from in feeling invisible and deciding to take what she feels that she's owed. Now, I'm not endorsing cannibalism by any means, so don't get that twisted, but I do think that she is a character that you can end up cheering on a little bit. This is one of the gorier and grosser cannibal books, though a lot of them are pretty gross to be honest, but this one doesn't hold back. Another thing that's examined in this book is the meat industry and agriculture. She talks a lot in her food writing and discussion of food throughout the book about the way the animals are treated, as well as the environmental impacts of agriculture. So though she is a cannibalistic murderer, she's very conscious. We love an eco-friendly queen. So for me, this is the quintessential woman cannibal book, just because it's the first one I read, but I do think that it's a great place to start if you're interested in cannibalism in fiction, and if you haven't read this one, I would highly recommend. Okay, next up is this slim novel called Hunger by Choi Jin-young. This is a Korean translated book, and it is only 125 pages. Essentially, it follows a couple, and they've been in love and in and out of a relationship their whole life. They're obsessed with each other, and one day the woman finds her man dead in the street and decides to consume him. This one feels a little bit more like a fever dream, and it's not nearly as straightforward as something like A Certain Hunger. A Certain Hunger is more plot focused, and even though the writing is really beautiful, it is more clear what exactly is happening. Whereas with this one, it is much more fever dreamy, it's much more open to interpretation, and and you have to kind of parse out what is happening beneath the kind of elusive and flowery language. This one portrays cannibalism a little bit differently. So for some context, throughout the lives of the two characters, the boyfriend is dealing with his parents' disappearance and the fact that they had taken loans out from loan sharks who essentially kept going after him after his parents disappeared. And they keep popping up different places, attacking him or finding his girlfriend or just intimidating him and wanting him to keep paying off these debts. And throughout the novel, there are a couple of moments where they're talking about eating each other if one of them was left behind. But ultimately, the reason why she decides to eat him is because she's concerned that these people will basically take his corpse and sell body parts to reclaim some of their money. So for her, eating her boyfriend is a way that she can, one, keep him inside her and keep him with her forever, and two, to preserve his body and his memory and to ensure that he gets the proper burial without being harvested. One of the main other themes throughout this book is survival in a world that will eat you alive from the inside out. There are many moments where the characters are talking about working themselves to the bone and never making any progress. And she's not happy about cannibalizing him whatsoever. She just feels that it is a service that she needs to do to make sure that he is properly remembered. So it's a really, really interesting take on cannibalism. It's also about an obsessive relationship. There is love in the relationship, but there's also this deep-rooted obsession that is unhealthy, but also understandable given the fact that both of their families are ripped apart and they don't have anyone else in their lives that they care about, and they've been through these horrible things, and they essentially bond together through these shared traumas and experiences and become obsessed with each other. This is a very complex little novella, and I don't know that I am even touching on all of the symbolism and metaphor in this book, but this was a very unique look at cannibalism and an obsessive relationship. I think this is a great example of cannibal girl horror. Okay, let's jump into one of my very favorite cannibal books. It is The Lamb by Lucy Rose. So this was a recent release this year, and it follows Margot and her mama. And Margot is a pretty young girl, and her mama live in a cabin out in the woods. And sometimes people who they call strays wander up to the cabin in search of help, and Margot and her mama take them in and drug them and kill them in order to eat them. And Margot believes that this is normal when we open up the book. She starts to realize how this might be off as she starts to interact with more people, and she starts to have more empathy for the strays that her mother is drawing in. But a new person enters into the dynamic when Margot and her mama discover a stray who they end up keeping, and her name is Eden, and Mama and Eden fall in love, and they have a toxic and obsessive dynamic and continue to take in strays and cannibalize them. So the cannibalism in this book is heavily alluded to as a symbolism for love, albeit toxic love. There is some serious sapphic longing in this book. There are also explorations of how motherhood is not what Mama expected. It's also kind of a coming of age story for Margot. She is coming to realize that her lifestyle is wrong and she wants to do her best to escape it, and she is coming of age in a situation where she may not be safe. I think in The Lamb, emotional cannibalism is just as much of a reality as literal cannibalism. Mama emotionally eats Margot alive. Margot is expected to do everything to make her mama love her, to take care of her mama. Mama is a narcissist and requires all of this love and devotion to even just be okay. And to me, the most interesting aspect of this book is that mother-daughter dynamic, that toxic way that mothers can emotionally cannibalize their daughters. This is one of the few books I have loved that is from a child's perspective, and the writing subtly shifts throughout the book as Margot gets a little bit more mature and comes into her own a bit, and you can see her relationship with Mama change as she realizes the kind of person that her mama is. The writing in this book is absolutely beautiful. It is this author's debut novel, and I almost couldn't believe it. People have called this pretentious, and that's totally fine. I'm still standing by it. I think that this is a great example of cannibalism as a metaphor horror, not just for shock value, and really explores girlhood and mother-daughter dynamics in a way that I have never seen before. So I absolutely love The Lamb and highly recommend. Okay, let's lean a little bit further into the girlhood aspect of cannibal women fiction. My next recommendation is The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. When the book opens up, the main character, Ji-won, is trying to navigate a difficult family dynamic where her father has had an extramarital affair and leaves them. Her mother is completely distraught and her younger sister just doesn't know what to do. Ji-won is 18 years old and is trying to navigate all of these big emotions and process the change in her family dynamic, and her mother begins to see a white man who is quite disturbing and really objectifies Ji-won and her sister and doesn't actually seek to understand any of their Korean heritage. However, he does have these dazzling blue eyes that Ji-won becomes obsessed with, and because of that, she feels this compulsive urge to pluck out the eyes of people with blue eyes that she comes across and eat them. So this is a classic feminine rage book. She's hungry, she is angry, and she's taking it out on anyone with blue eyes. To me, it's very interesting that she chooses people with blue eyes because it kind of plays into the racial dynamic and eugenics. Thinking back to Nazi Germany, blue eyes were one of the traits that were considered pure and something associated with whiteness. And I think subconsciously, Ji-won sees blue eyes as a representation of the enemy, specifically because of this white man who has come into their lives and is terrorizing them. So you can go pretty deeply into the layers of this book and examine the ways in which Korean American heritage appears and racial dynamics. But it's also a book about complex family dynamics and relationships with your parents, a coming of age story, and an examination of feminine rage. She's tired of being objectified both as a woman and as an Asian person, and she seeks revenge on anyone and everyone that steps in her way. It's also a really interesting take on the cannibal girl genre because there's a bit of a twist at the end that feels pretty unexpected and kind of reframes the entirety of the story. So I won't spoil it, but the ending was quite interesting. I do think that this book is deeply feminist and deeply horrifying, and it is a great example of cannibal girl horror. Okay, and my final recommendation is What Hunger by Catherine Dang. So this one follows Ronnie, and we open up to the summer before she starts high school, and early in the book, her older brother is killed in a freak car accident, and the very traumatic event throws the whole family out of sorts, and Ronnie is left to pick up the pieces. After her brother Tommy's death, Ronnie begins to rebel. She begins to go out, sneak out late at night and go to parties. And after she is assaulted at one such party, she begins to get the taste for raw meat. Everything from raw beef to human flesh. This is yet another book about Asian American heritage. Ronnie is Vietnamese American and her family talks often of the food in Vietnam, but really don't talk about much else of their experience living in Vietnam. Food is a big part of this story, and it's where Ronnie experiences the most of her Vietnamese heritage. So there are a lot of food descriptions within this book. Also, I just think that these two go really well together and complement each other thematically, so if you like one, you should definitely try the other. So it's about the Asian American experience and Vietnamese culture. It's about complex family dynamics. It's about grief. And it's also about how traumas compound and how experiencing one trauma can leave you vulnerable to experiencing more. And from that, the ways in which trauma can assert itself in one's life. In her case, it manifests in strange and deviant ways. This is also a great example of girlhood horror, focusing on the horrifying aspects of girlhood and womanhood, being objectified, being assaulted, not being believed for said assault, all real and horrifying aspects of growing up as a girl. So I absolutely loved What Hunger. I found it to be very compelling, and that is my final recommendation. Okay, so those were my top 5 recommendations for cannibalism books about women. They're weird and gory and horrifying, and I love all of them. So if you have any other recommendations for cannibal girl horror books that you loved, let me know in the comments and I'll add them to my TBR. Also, if there's another sort of niche topic within Weird Woman books that you're interested in me covering, let me know in the comments as well. I would love to make this a series where I give you my top recommendations within a certain niche subject. So let me know if you have any ideas. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this video and being here. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.